quite a bit of issues going forward right now that are impacting on judiciary. And I would ask you, as judges, how should or would you kind of steer your way through these very rocky shoals of the intersection of politics and courts right now? I don't remember a time that's been this tense in the 30 years that I've been covering state government. So and if we could start with you, Judge Gibson, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for having us this morning, and for that question. I do agree with you. I think it's an unprecedented time in our history. And I suppose every generation probably thinks that, though I should give deference to the other generations. I think that for judges, what's incumbent on me as a sitting judge is that I do not let politics into my courtroom or into my rulings. You know, I think you have to remember that judges are people, right? And we have a story and we have a history and we do have opinions, but those are not welcome in the courtroom. And it is my goal every day to treat every person who comes to court with dignity, to apply the law to everyone equally, with equity. And I think as a county court judge, having my community members appear in front of me daily with that in mind, that everyone who comes before me will be treated equally. I hope the people who come in front of me leave with a positive experience with our system in the midst of all the turmoil we have. You know, as a county judge, I can't affect all of that, but I can affect what's happening in my courtroom. And that's what I do every day.
Mr. Adams?
Yeah, my feeling is that politics obviously have no place in a courtroom, that a good judge shouldn't be showing any sort of political bias whatsoever. The parties, whether they are the litigants or the attorneys, should never feel like politics are involved in any way. They shouldn't feel like they know your politics when you're on the bench, the way you rule, the way you treat people. We have a sense to treat fair and justly everybody, whether they are poor and indigent or rich or an attorney. A judge has no place even showing any political bias whatsoever. And obviously, at the higher level, sometimes these judges, they're picked by executives, and so you assume that they have potentially some bias, whether they were picked or not. There's no place for it whatsoever. And if a judge is showing some bias, if one party feels like they know that judge's politics, then I don't think they're doing a very good job.
I would then, I guess, go right back to you for another question, which is that kind of addresses the other end of the spectrum, the human scale. County court is frequently referred to as the people's court because it does involve issues that to many people may seem small but are very significant to the litigants involved. And one of the huge challenges that you face is that many litigants appear before you without attorneys, even in matters that arguably they should have attorneys. What can a judge do to uphold the integrity of the court while giving people who don't have that representation equitable treatment?
So these people, and by these people, I mean the people who appear in county court, these are people who I work with every day as a criminal defense attorney who defends mostly indigent people. As somebody who does civil county court a lot, I do a lot of wage garnishments, bank account garnishments, evictions, collections defense. I know these people. And sometimes when they come to court, they're having the worst day of their life. Just because they're in court doesn't mean they're somebody who's in and out of the court system. Sometimes these things are very important. I deal with people who are single moms who are having 25% of their paycheck garnished, and they're wanting me to reassure them that we're going to get this stopped and get their money back. So a judge's job is on a practical matter. It is very important that they can deal with these people, that they understand where they are and where they're coming from, and that they can move these matters along and not take something that could be resolved fairly quickly and turn it into a 4 or 5 month matter. And so I do think that judges should take more of an active role with people who are not represented. A lot of times these are very minor things, and with the proper instruction, they could be resolved very quickly and not clog up the docket and turn it into a 4-month or longer thing, whether it's in criminal court or in county court. The rules of evidence will always apply, but there is more to do for these county court judges to get directly involved, to make sure that they understand the process, they understand where they're at in the process, what the possible consequences are. And if they feel comfortable and know what the consequences are going to be going forward without attorney, I think judges should do that and get involved more.
Judge?
Same question?
Mm-hmm. Same question.
All right. Thank you so much. I think that being a judge in the People's Court has been the greatest honor of my life. Every day, I see more citizens than any other type of judge in the state of Florida. And I absolutely love getting to spend time with my fellow Orange County residents. And one of the things I do when I'm dealing with pro se litigants is slow it down. Oftentimes with attorneys, there's a rhythm in the courtroom and they understand the rhythm. They've been here before. We know what pretrial conference means. I'm entering this plea on behalf of my client. We're continuing it for the next court date. But when people aren't represented and they aren't sure what the next step is and they aren't sure how they should handle themselves, I slow down. I take extra time because it is my goal that every person who leaves my courtroom understands what happened to them, what is happening with their case. And so I take extra time. And during the year of 2021, I was one of the judges assigned full-time at the Orange County Jail. And I did that at the jail. And occasionally I would get some pushback from some individuals who wanted the docket to move quicker. And I would explain, this is a really tough situation for this person, whether they're a victim or a witness to a crime or the person charged with a crime. If they're new, if this is the first time they've been arrested or the first time they've been a victim, they may have no idea what's happening. Even if they've been a victim 15 times, they still need to have their day in court. And so what I do is slow it down, make sure I explain, and I frequently ask, do you understand everything I told you? And if they have questions, we address their questions, obviously within the bounds of the law. But I make sure that we slow down what needs to be slowed down so that people understand what's happening.
I have a question for you too that sort of takes a different tack on things, but I wanted to ask just for the sake of the voters out there watching this. When you first got into law and jurisprudence, what do you think was one thing in your personal background, not your professional background, that made you want to get into the law, and what's one thing that does or would make you a good judge? Judge Gibson, we'll start with you.
Thank you. So I have wanted to be an attorney and a judge since I was 12 years old. 12-year-old Elizabeth was convinced that injustice and inequity should not exist. And as the daughter of a United States Navy chaplain, of course, we were very involved in service, and serving others is just what my parents taught us we should do. And knowing injustice existed was a challenge for me. And so from that young age, I knew I wanted to be part of what I saw as the greatest system in the world. It's the only system designed to protect and preserve individual liberties. Now, it's not perfect. There are people involved and people make choices every day, right? We don't have a perfect system, but we have an amazing system. And so even from the age of 12, I knew I wanted to be part of that to make a difference in my community.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Same to you.
Well, I certainly can't say that I knew I wanted to be an attorney from the age of 12. I probably didn't know what an attorney was. I came from a very blue-collar background. Both of my parents did not have college degrees. I was the second oldest of 5 children. And when I turned 18, or really when I was 17, I just decided I had to get out of there. And so I joined the Marine Corps. And I traveled a lot. And really, for me, that's when my education began. I was self-taught. I started reading everything I could get a hold of at that point in my life. I wasn't the best student when I was younger. But at that point, I started reading a lot. And what I started with was the beginning of America. I started reading biographies of, Washington and Jefferson and Adams and Franklin. And it was at that point that I started deciding what kind of person that I wanted to be. And the thing that all these people had in common was that they had great educations. They could, go anywhere and talk to anybody. And that's sort of where I went with it. So at that point, I decided that, yes, becoming a lawyer was something that I wanted to do. When I got out of the Marines, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to go to law school, I'd go to college, go to law school, become a prosecutor. And that's exactly what I did. I out of law school, I took a job for Lawson Lamar in the Ninth Judicial Circuit as a prosecutor. And, as an attorney, I've evolved. The reasons that I practice law are not necessarily the same reasons that I started with now. What makes me a good attorney or a judge isn't necessarily the same thing that made me a good attorney coming out of law school. Now, my professional life is that I go to different courtrooms almost every day throughout Central Florida, many times county court, and I get to see the different practices that the different judges, the different demeanors. And in my personal life, I have 3 kids. I've been married for 11 years. Before I leave the house in the morning, I've dealt with 2 or 3 meltdowns of people who are acting like it is their worst day of their life. And so I've learned to deal with that. I've learned a lot of patience and how to deal with these kind of people who are having terrible days. And, I think the demeanor, the professional experience, and the knowledge are going to make me a fantastic judge.
One of the things that we have seen as a significant innovating force in courts, and I suspect that both of you have some experience in this area, is the development of multiple specialized courts. Mental health, substance abuse. Obviously, the drug court was one of the first. Which specialty courts do you think Orange County should be looking, if any, to add? And are there any that you would specifically like to preside over? And I have to apologize, Judge Gibson, because I tried to check to see if you were affiliated with any already, but I couldn't find that information quickly. So, but I did want to know, are there some that Orange County should consider adding, and if and which, if any, would either of you like to work with? And I think Mr. Adams, I think it's your turn to go first.
Yes, I'm happy to go. So yes, I have experience probably just about every specialized court that we have. Judge Whitehead has been doing a great job with the mental health court and the substance abuse courts. We have the domestic violence courts. They both do a good job because, the domestic violence judges, they have experience dealing with the victims, making sure that they are getting adequate access to the courts. Those cases, a very high percentage of them end up getting dismissed because the victims decide that they don't want to participate. And so it is great to have judges that have that specialized experience. I would like to see more of an active drug court in county court. The resources, I think, are mostly devoted to the circuit court. There's a lot of people who their primary reason for being there, whether it's a suspended driver's license, a possession of drugs, they're there because they have a drug problem, and it's keeping them from really managing their life, and that's bringing them into the court system. Or whether it's getting eviction or whatever it is, drug problems are the root of a lot of these people's problem and mental health problems. So yes, I would like to see more resources devoted at the county court level to get these people the help that they need. Of course, sometimes they're just not willing to do it, and the stakes are not high enough at the county court level to make them do it. But we could use more resources. They have done a fantastic job with it. This is something that's really just happened over the last 10 years, and they're doing a very good job. So I don't have a major criticism. They're doing a great job. I'd like to see a little bit more at the drug and mental health at the county court level.
So thank you for looking, Ms. Fluger. And there is not, you won't find it because unfortunately we in county court are not involved with the specialty courts as judges. As actually Mr. Adams just said, the resources aren't there. County court doesn't have jurisdiction to order anyone into a program. So in the Ninth Circuit, we have very active specialty courts. Judge Alicia Lattimore is now the judge assigned to those. And I know that it is her mission to bring as many resources as she can to our circuit. She works very hard to do that. And so I believe that our specialty courts are doing an excellent job. I do agree that if we had the resources to do more of that in county court, it would absolutely benefit our citizens, because in county court, we see a lot of crime that is fueled by either substance abuse or something that's near and dear to my heart is, of course, course, veterans, because my father was a veteran. And when people come back from combat, a lot of times they have complicated mental health issues, and we see a lot of them end up on the street for various reasons. And so, of course, I would love to be as involved as I can with those things. I was actively involved at the jail with pretrial diversion and tried to get as many people as I could into. We have a mental health pretrial diversion program at the jail, and misdemeanors and felonies qualify for that program. And so I was actively involved in that because I do believe that where we can divert resources to keep people out of problem situations, it's a much better use of our time and taxpayer dollars, frankly.
When, and when you talk about resources, I think that certainly Florida's had a long-running debate over how to fairly fund the courts. And you kind of answered this question, but in terms of specialty courts, but I would like to ask you, what other things could Orange County courts be accomplishing if they had the resources that they don't currently have? I know we're all accustomed to thinking of this as an era where there's huge piles of cash sitting around for government, but it hasn't seemed to make it to the third branch.
No, there, as far as I am aware, no huge piles of cash lying around. Certainly not that the judges have access to. I've not seen any of these files, but I'll keep you posted if I find any. I think that one thing is, and we just recently got several new open positions from the legislature because there is a backlog of cases. Trial judges in Florida, as I assume all over the United States, are backed up. And the pandemic further exacerbated an existing backlog. Now we have an even larger backlog because, as you know, just like the rest of the world, the court system had to shut down for a time because of the global pandemic. And I actually took the bench in 2020, so right in the heart of the global pandemic. And I can tell you that the Ninth Circuit did a phenomenal job with leveraging technology, with doing as much as we could and assigning resources where we could to streamline what we have access to currently. So honestly, I think that our circuit has done a phenomenal job. As you know, our chief judge, Judge Lisa Munyon, has been chairing the technology committees for the Florida Bar for a long time. She's very active and involved. And so she does a lot to bring that technology here to our circuit. And so I think that we've done the best that we could do with a really tough situation. I would say probably one of the biggest things we could accomplish with more resources would be more open positions. Because, for instance, in county civil, as you know, with the pandemic, county civil was one of the last, it was actually the last area to open back up, because circuit court opened first, and then of course criminal, because we have constitutional issues at stake. And so our county civil judges had dockets with just sort of astronomical numbers because of the pandemic and then the jurisdictional increase. And so by assigning new open seats onto the civil docket, now we are working in our circuit to level that out and bring the numbers down so that the judges can ensure that justice is accessible to everyone. So I think we're doing the best we really can, and I'm honored every day to be a part of that. I volunteered to go to civil. I hope I get there eventually, because I know that we have a great need there, and I see this job as my service to my community. So I want to serve where we have the greatest need.
In addition to my practice, which is, criminal and civil, my wife does estate planning and probate. And so I get to hear about all of her problems that she runs into in getting these probates filed, letters of administration, all that stuff. One of the things that they've done in the probate courts is they hired a administrative professional to come in there and to sort of reorganize things. It's very common, whether it's probate or my civil practice, evictions, wage garnishments, to have these things seemingly sitting on a desk somewhere and having nothing happen. it's very common for us to deal with a case where my wife is filing a probate. We've got a person whose spouse has passed. They're trying to get access to the bank accounts or children, and things are already very stressful. And these things are lingering on, and we just cannot get court dates to try to push them through. In the upper level civil, there's a lot of judges around the state and the county who do these things called short matters, that a way that you can get access to the judge to explain to them what's going on. If there's a problem, they can help you solve it. We don't have enough of that. And so maybe it's that we need more administrative specialists in the different divisions, but we have a lot of orders sitting on desks that are not getting signed. We have a lot of courts that we cannot get access to. The judge will not see us. And so these are things that we deal with, and we are constantly trying to find answers as private attorneys who have clients who are depending on us. So I think, short of hiring more judges, which is always a possibility and a priority, more administrative professionals to help move these things. In the criminal court, you're moving bodies, and that's a little bit more difficult, but moving the evictions, you have landlords who depend on this. These are not rich people necessarily, but landlords who depend on the income of tenants who are not paying it, and they need to get these properties turned over, and they're not getting their money. They're having a very difficult time, and orders are just sitting on desk. Administrative professionals could help that. Probate, they've started doing that. You can have administrative professionals who can help lighten the load a little bit so the courts can start doing those short matters hearings and getting access to the judges. So access to the courts and moving these things along is not happening enough, and it can happen more. Part of that might just be grinding by the judges. The judges need to push harder and grind so that they can give access to the courts. Not all of the courts are doing that, and that's not obviously directed towards Judge Gibson. I have no criticism in that area. But I see it a lot. I see it both in Orange County and in other counties, but some judges do it better than others.
We have come to the end of our appointed time. I did want to ask you both to kind of give us a brief statement of why you think you're the right choice for this seat, our group, and just let us know what else you think we need to know about you and about. Thank you. And we'll start with Mr. Adams and then go to Judge Gibson.
So I had not a year ago intended to run as a judge this cycle. It's always been something that I thought about, maybe when I got older in the sort of twilight of my career, that I would certainly consider it. When I was a young attorney, beginning as a prosecutor, I had judges that sort of fit that mold in my head. These judges like Judge Kest, both Kest, Sally and Judge John Kest, Judge Rand Wallace, Judge Traver, Judge Arnold. These are the judges that I was practicing in front of, and that's what I thought of as a judge. And then more recently, because of the expanding Orange County, Osceola County, Central Florida, and the budgets increasing over time, we've got a lot of new judges. And the current governor has had a lot of appointments, and that sort of changed my perspective of what a judge is and what it could be. And, a lot of it is welcome. It's not a criticism at all. But I look around and I see a lot of judges now who they have less experience than me. You have judges who are getting appointed who've been an attorney for 5 years. And so when I would look around and I would say, why not? Why not be? Am I more experienced than this person? Could I be a better judge than this person? And when I was constantly saying that to myself, looking at my own life experience and my own knowledge, my own perspectives that I've gained in life over and over again, I just started saying, well, why shouldn't that person face election? Should a judge who's appointed face election, or should it be, essentially a lifetime appointment? And so I decided that, look, these judges should stand election. I do think I'm experienced and knowledgeable. I think I'd make the better candidate. I was a Marine out of high school. I served in combat in Afghanistan. I went to college on the GI Bill. I'm one of 5 children myself. I've got 3 children of my own, and I've been married for 11 years. I've been an attorney for 14 years. I've got nearly 100 jury trials, and I own my own business. So when I look at the experience and what it takes to make a good judge, I just think that my knowledge, my experience, my life perspective would make me the better judge in this case. And so, yes.
All right. Thank you so much. As the daughter of an Orange County public school teacher and United States Navy chaplain, service has always been a part of my life. My parents taught us that our greatest calling is to serve others. I believe that my legal career and breadth of experience speaks for itself. If you look back, I began my legal career as a prosecutor, serving the people of the state of Florida. I then transitioned into healthcare, where I worked for two of our largest nonprofit healthcare organizations. I then worked for another mid-sized nonprofit just before taking the bench. So from the courtroom to the boardroom, my practice has always been focused on service. The practice of law for me was never about how much money I could make, but how much of a difference I could make in my community. As a prosecutor, I tried almost 100 trials to verdict. I prosecuted thousands of cases. In fact, in my office, I was known as a problem solver. When we had a problem docket that was very large, they assigned me to that docket because they knew that I would work hard, roll up my sleeves, go to trial where needed, and work down the dockets that needed to be worked down. And as a sitting judge, I do the same thing here. I volunteer for tough assignments. I come to work every day. I have seen, especially during this pandemic, the importance of the work we do in county court and the impact that we can have on our community. And it has been the greatest honor of my life to continue my record of service by serving on the bench. I serve the citizens of Orange County. I was appointed through a two-step process. I first earned the trust and respect of the Judicial Nominating Commission, the individuals there who nominated me to the governor's office. I then worked hard to earn the trust and respect of the individuals in the governor's office. I practiced law for almost 16 years before I took the bench 2 years ago. And I've now been a sitting judge for 2 years. So the breadth of my experience is everything from fighting for life in prison for the mother who's sitting next to me, begging me to keep her husband in prison long enough that her daughter could turn 18, to working with some of our leaders in Orange County to, in collaboration, move organizations forward so that we can better serve our citizens. And if the citizens of Orange County, I'm working hard to earn the trust and respect now of the voters. So as I knock on doors and introduce myself to voters and humbly ask for their vote, I ask, what is it I can do to earn your vote? And I think that the hard work I'm doing speaks for itself. And I would appreciate everyone's vote on August 23rd or before.